used to have a list of blocked phone numbers, of numbers that I knew had blocked me, so I could pump up my call volume when I wanted to get out of there for the day.
AI starts to become that invisible hand. It's like, hey, I have to perform. I can't just make 2-second phone calls, hang up, or make a crappy phone call because I'm having a terrible day.
20% of our customers who call in, we capture, and they purchase a vehicle from us. And just think about that, is 80% of our clients are missing on that side. And that's our farthest along lead in the funnel in terms of ready to buy.
When I see a 6-minute phone call, I'm like, that's amazing that they didn't see that it was AI for 6 minutes and they're having that great of a conversation. Welcome to the Car Dealer AI Show, where we talk to vendors and dealerships on what's working now with AI in automotive. Today we have a specialist in all thing calls and all conversations within a dealership. I'm excited to see how Sean's experience transforms into what him and some other people are building within the automotive industry called Call Grade IQ. Sean has been in the dealerships, he's been on the training side, he's been on the phone side, and yeah, I have a lot of questions for what you guys are building, and we want to see how dealers can utilize this type of technology and also get just your view on the future of AI inside of car dealerships. So I'll hand it over to Sean, but I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you are utilizing your expertise and explain what that expertise is and transforming that into something that is AI enabled inside of a dealership.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you for having me, John. So just to start with sort of my area of expertise would be anything that happens on the phone, and particularly bringing customers to the store, right? One of the things I've found as a phone trainer for the last 5 years or so is there's a huge hole in dealerships in so far as understanding what's actually happening on the phone, what kind of conversations are we having. And the reality is how many customers are we missing because of poor training, poor strategy, and then furthermore, how do we catch that, right? So it's one thing to miss opportunities with customers. It's a whole nother thing to never catch that we miss them or equip staff members to have those conversations better so we improve moving forward, right? There's a huge issue with turnover in automotive. When I was a sales guy and what I experienced a lot out on the dealership floor and in the stores is, essentially they hire salespeople, they give them very little training. Maybe they get a month to shadow. Maybe they do a couple role plays with their manager, and then it's off you go. Good luck, right? And then there's some coaching in the middle. But so what we're looking at with AI, especially with phone calls, is, okay, let's give them a really good foundation, right? Let's introduce them to call strategy. Let's introduce them to good technique, good tone of voice. But then where AI can help us, especially again, as a phone trainer who used to go into stores, and I could give you 90 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hours of really good phone training and role play, then I leave. I have no idea what's happening, what they're saying, is it working, is it not? And, best case scenario, we go look at just numbers on a screen. We go look at total calls made. We maybe look at conversations, conversation time, and did we set appointments? But where AI can really help fill the gap is when I go or when a trainer goes, we can equip managers to not only use AI to understand outcomes, how many appointments did we set, how many phone calls did we make, and we can equip them to understand what happened in the call. How was our tone of voice? Was it positive? Was it engaging? Were we persistent? Did we follow the structure and the framework that we provided to the salesperson or service advisor? We can use that to analyze a phone call to understand where did we win, where did we lose, and then how do we change that outcome, right? And so what it's really all about, especially with what I'm doing now with Matt, is helping managers use this data to improve their people, right? It's not just about an accountability tool. That's what a lot of our clients are looking for, is accountability tools, but also a way for a leader in a store to look at a salesperson and say, go make more phone calls, go do better, get stronger. They can say, hey, look, I can see you're really good at the introduction. I can see a really good tone of voice. However, when objections come, you lose the customer 90% of the time, right? Okay, so let's work on improving your objection handling. So those are just a few of the ways that we're using AI to help with these phone calls, this phone training. We could get into. There's always an opportunity. There's a little bit of an opportunity with AI role play as well, using AI to show people exactly at the moment in their call where a customer may be disengaged or their tone dropped or the tone changed. The opportunities are endless. And as a guy who, like I shared with you before this, who's traveled a lot, who spent weeks on the road at a time, we're looking at AI as a way to sort of bridge when I'm not there, when I'm not in front of you, staying engaged, applying training in a much deeper way than we would with perhaps role play on the phone, right? Or reading the data, reading the outcomes, and not reading what happened that led to the outcomes.
Yeah, I love this. And I think it allows people to become self-trained. And I think about you
Yes.
mentioned high turnover. I've seen it both on the dealership side firsthand and also on the vendor side firsthand.
Right.
Sales is the easiest position to fire. And a lot of it is just because it's so quantifiable. You either sold stuff or you didn't sell stuff. And many
Right.
times that first reaction when your sales are low is your activity must be low. So if that activity is low and you're not completing enough tasks in the CRM, or you're not making 50 outbound phone calls a day, or mining the CRM for opportunities, all of that is activity. But what if activity is low quality? And there's never really been a way to quantify low quality. So quality and
Right.
quantity have always been a different conversation. But now, if you can quantify quality, then you can actually hopefully improve it and not waste all that time that you just spent training somebody, and just push them out the door because they can't succeed on their own. Walk me through like what this feels like for a dealership. So a dealership, it's everything you say in theory sounds incredible, but there's systems and there's processes and there's actual technology that exists, and dealers don't want to swap out their technology. Um,
Right.
what does that look
Yeah. So first of all, you're absolutely right, and one of the most important things when we were looking at creating call grade and bringing it to dealers was I don't want to walk into a dealership and ask them to put a new phone system in their store, right? Oftentimes they're in contracts, right? There's many companies that provide phones. Some of them provide the recording as well. Sometimes you have a third party who records and scores those calls or provides you data on how many were made, right? And so the nice thing with call grade is what we can do is we're able to hook up with any phone provider, anyone who's recording your phone calls. We can get linked up with them and grab that audio and start ingesting it into call grade IQ. So my aim is to be as low impact as possible. I don't want to disrupt your business. I don't want to create additional headache. And how do we accommodate call grade IQ, or how do we help get this installed, right? If you can point us to your account representative and give them approval for us to start ingesting your audio, we're good to go. We can get rolling fast, right? Once you've agreed, or once you've joined up, there's a little bit of work for us to do for the dealer, right? We have to take a baseline, and as a trainer, I'm kind of married to the baseline idea in terms that I have to understand where we start, right? Because we have to be able to show that call grade IQ and any training we provide is going to be an asset to you, and people have to improve, right? So there will be a baseline that goes on behind the scenes. We can take data from previous weeks or previous months to do that. But outside of signing a contract, and pointing us and providing us a representative or a contact at your phone company or your call recording company, it's a very easy onboarding process for us.
Yeah, it almost makes me think about, in like management studies, there's this thing called the invisible hand. So essentially, the day that the boss is out of the office is the day that nothing gets done. But
Right.
as
Yeah.
long as the boss is casually walking around the office, he doesn't have to say anything, but like productivity is through the roof because of that. And this AI starts to become that invisible hand also. So not only are you improving your people, I would imagine, giving executive level roll up reports, but also you have this invisible hand that's like, hey, I have to perform. I can't just make 2-second phone calls, hang up, or make a crappy phone call because I'm having a terrible day,
Yeah.
and I have to be there. I have to be present. I have to be fully hospitable, like a front desk agent is something that comes to mind. Like you can't just have a bad day. I mean, you can, but the guest is gonna feel it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so there's two ways to land with call grade IQ and what it does for management and accountability, right? Which is There's, as a salesperson, I can look at it as sort of something hanging over my head, or as a BDC agent, I can look at it as something that's watching and listening to me and tracking. I was a sales guy, John, and I used to have a list of blocked phone numbers, of numbers that I knew had blocked me, so I could pump up my call volume when I wanted to get out of there for the day, right?
Yeah.
And I used to do that half the time because all I had to do was get to 30 on a screen and I was good to go, right? And so I'm very familiar with that life, and I always want to balance, expectations in terms of we have to be making quality phone calls. It doesn't mean we're going to sell 3 cars a day or as a BDC agent set 5 appointments a day. However, we do have to try, right? And we do have to provide those agents with tools and resources to try and feel confident in their effort, right? So you can look at it as a negative, but there's also what's everybody's favorite subject typically is themselves, right? And the really cool thing with call grade IQ is once I start taking phone calls and my phone calls start becoming analyzed, I'm looking at myself, I'm looking at my strengths, my weaknesses, and I'm given a really quality plan to get better, and I'm given the tools to do that. So I have, training, I have frameworks, I have outlines, I have scripts, I have if they say, when they say, so right. I have all these tools that help me learn, okay, here's how do I speak to a customer, here's how I overcome these objections. But I also have AI role play. I also have analysis that tells me my tone dropped a little bit too far over here, or I lost the customer at this part, and then I have an opportunity to get better, right? And what I find in dealerships is most people are there to make money, right? That's the goal, is to make as much money as possible. And what this can do is this can help me go from, if I'm a BDC agent, this can help me go from 15 appointments a month to 20, right? Or if I'm a salesperson, getting better on the phones is the difference of, 14 cars a month to 16 to 18 to 20 again, right? So I'm given these tools that help me improve, and I have training and information in an environment that doesn't put me on the spot in front of the class or in a group session, right? So I think there's two sides to that. There will always be, people who don't want that sort of accountability or that sort of measurement. But typically, I find if you can give them that in a way that makes sense to them, or over time, you can even win those people over once you show them the outcomes that they can get.
Yeah, I can see the self learners also really, and the ambitious people really rising above with something like this.
Oh yeah.
I think about when I was sitting on the dealership floor. I was just a marketing manager, so I wasn't actually in sales, but I got to witness what would happen, and somebody's numbers would be low, and then our general manager would say, "Okay, you have to watch 5 more." What was it back
Mhm.
then? Like Verde? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, Joe Verde.
Yeah, Joe Verde. It's like, okay, go ahead and just watch 5 more Joe Verde calls, try to implement some of that. And it's like, did that actually work? Probably not. Because those people just weren't self aware enough that they're not doing those things, or they're not capable of doing those things on the mark. We had the pleasure to have another guest on a couple months ago. His company was called First Pencil, and he had a really, really interesting concept. So very similar to you guys, but instead of phone calls, it was all physical. So he actually has a mic or like a lapel there, and he's recording those conversations. And all he's focused on is just literally the pencil time of making sure that I'm not going back and forth
Right.
to the sales manager over and over again. His goal is you should win the deal on the first pencil, and if you don't, then this is exactly why. Like, this is where you failed. This is what you could have said differently.
Right.
And you could probably sit in a university and take those classes of like how to win the first pencil, but
Mhm.
not until they call you out on your BS and the stuff that you're saying is, when you're actually going to win, I think.
Absolutely. We have to have measurement, right? And most people, I'm a believer that if you sat me down and you put me in front of 5 Joe Verde videos, I bet you I'd learn something that helped me, right?
Yeah.
But is it actionable? Is it measurable? Is it going to achieve the result, or is it going to give me one idea for every 10 phone calls, right? Is the question. And the hardest part with all of that is we don't know, right? And I've done this for years, where we can kind of go in and we can train, and then we leave and the dealer says, did it help? And I said, I think so. I think they're getting better, right? And as a vendor, particularly, we have to show a return on investment to our clients, right? Or it's a ticking time bomb. I'm going to lose sleep if I can't show a return on investment. Nor do I want to just take money without being absolutely positive that what I'm giving a client is a value to them, right? But when it comes down to measurement, particularly on the phones, it's an area we've always been lacking. And what you typically find is just sort of a tried and true method of give them a script, right? And then we'll do, once a month, we'll role play the script, right? And so what we find with call grade IQ is we do retain some of that. We have structure to our calls. I like to call them like sort of landmarks, which is I know where I'm going. I know the points I want to hit, right? But then we do really good role play. We practice. You make sure the agent or the representative says it. They do it. They understand the why behind why we're structuring calls this way. But then if we leave and we can't measure that, I can't tell you where we lost them. I can't tell you, okay, you were really good at these 3 points, but you lost it here, right? And here's why. And so not only are we taking it off the trainer to sit there and watch, or a manager to listen to hundreds of calls a day, which they're not doing. There's very rare you're going to get someone in a store who's listening to every phone call, right? You're picking out a few, but we're actually putting it in the representative's hands and the manager's hands to see really critical data about what's happening on these calls, and then we can instantly share with them, here's how the outcome could have changed, right? And if we can share that with them, and then we can provide them an environment to train it themselves, to learn it themselves, and then quickly get back on the phone and see success, then you're watching, and I always tell managers, you measure success for a manager as if their team almost needs them, right? If I'm a manager in a store with a team full of BDC agents, I don't want to be transferred calls because I want to equip my team to handle every possible scenario, right? And if you get them in an environment like that, pretty soon you have a team that's high functioning, self-supporting, and knows what to do in every situation.
Yeah, thinking about like getting into the future of AI is, can this AI train AI? So I think about just voice AI meets call grade IQ, or essentially voice QA. And what do you think that would look like if dealerships were reliant on voice AI and implement it into their dealerships?
Yeah. So I think number one, I get really into call data in the sense that, we can measure tone using AI now, right? And we can listen to customer sentiment, right? And we start talking about voice AI. Well, we're going to have a ton of data in call grade IQ and other places that tell us this is where we lost 30% of customers hung up the phone when we said this, right? And 50% said no when we asked for an appointment this way, right? And we saw higher success rates when a salesperson had this tone of voice or this pitch, right? And so we'll be able to inform, when we start talking about voice AI, we'll be able to inform voice AI, okay, not only what's perhaps the best tone, I'm really into, how do we sound on the phone? What's our tone like? So what's the best tone for a voice AI? But not only that, but we can help voice AI structure its phone calls and its setting, perhaps, to help it understand what's going to be the smoothest route to an appointment for a customer. What's going to be the best customer experience, right? Because throughout, if we took 100 calls out of a dealership, right, you'll hear the best phone performance, and you'll hear the worst all out of that 100 probably in the same day, right? You'll hear agents handling the phone calls extremely well, and you'll hear phone calls where it makes you want to scratch your head and go talk to the agent and say, hey, what happened, right? Did you have a bad day? What's going on? And so we'll be able to inform that AI, that voice AI, of here's where we saw the highest percentage success with customers, and here's the route the agents took, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense. Kind of makes me think. So, at cardealer.ai, we develop voice AI agents for car dealerships, and we've had some feedback that dealers actually prefer the voice AI to take every single phone call because it's consistent. And
Right.
they're like, I don't like the inconsistencies in the consumer experience. Maybe it's inconsistencies in one person's day, from what they're like in the morning, afternoon, and evening. But it's also inconsistency. If you speak to Deborah and you speak to Mike, it's a completely
Right.
different experience. And whether they like voice AI or not, we strive to have the most human like voice AI on the market right now. And I'm kind of thinking about, right now, we program in imperfections and we have a lot of humans actually just listening. Does that sound human? Does this sound human? Making those
Mhm.
decision making factors. But there is something that I don't think we do a good enough job at, is having AI QA our AI. There's certain points in the call that sometimes the AI will do something that the human actually picks up that it's AI. It's very infrequent for our phone calls, luckily, because that's what we strive for. That's our
Right.
metric. Is how many times they ask, is this a robot? Can I get transferred to human? Those types of things. But there's sometimes that they don't ask, but you can see that they went down to like one word examples or one word. So they're like schedule service or not just one word, but like quick
Right.
prompts, and they
Yeah.
get away from sentences. And it'd be interesting to see, okay, well, before they ask those types of things or change their conversation type, how many or what was said right before then? Was it
What
an
led to it?
error? Did they say something weird? Did they repeat something? Like sometimes the AI is like, let me just make sure I got that right. Your name is Sean. And it's like, obviously, Sean's a simple name. Like, a
Hmm.
human wouldn't have second guessed that thing. And but the amazing part about the voice AI is you're building out this asset. Like your talent and your humans, your sales reps are your assets, but they come and go, and they have inconsistencies.
Right.
But yeah, again, just kind of like visualizing a world where AI is kind of like controlling AI, and I think I would imagine a lot of dealerships we're seeing it. A lot of dealerships are going in that path right now, but I think for as long as the industry is dependent on sales reps and is going to utilize them to its max capacity for that ultimate human to human experience, which is what every human is craving, let's make them better. Let's keep on improving them and making them, hopefully they'll use the AI tools and not resist them.
And that is the other piece is a big part of our job at Call Grade IQ is helping. You're gonna have, it's funny, in dealerships it's like the most it's I think it might be one of the most stubborn group and myself was peak of that when I was a salesperson, right? So I don't speak that in a bad way. I admire a lot of what I see there. However, is teaching them not only, here is a tool that's going to help you, let's use it, right? And if you take a look at all the tools in dealerships, and if you spent the time to go through how are they using these tools, you'd say, hey, you're leaving some money on the table, right? And so looking at a client and saying, hey, we're gonna grade your calls, we're gonna track performance, and we're gonna give actionable plans for people to improve. The other 50% of that is helping a leader or a manager see it not only as an asset but make it a part of their day. And by the way, I don't fault them for having unused tools they have. Oftentimes they're jumping from 5, 6, 7, 8 tabs, doing a million different things while customers are in the building. So helping them structure their day and seeing when there's a good time to use call grade, and not to mention delivering them some automated data too, so they don't have to go out of their way to get it right. But like you said, is then making sure it's being utilized in a good way. I used to work for someone where one of their big statements was, we don't want to weaponize data, right? And that can't happen in car dealerships specifically. And so, helping people see that, hey, we're going to use this as an accountability and measurement tool. There's nothing wrong with accountability. There's nothing wrong with measurement, but we're going to use it in a way that enables salespeople and BDC agents and service advisors to get better at what they do and increase, the dealership experience and customer satisfaction in store, right?
Yeah. How do we make them better? Not just, I like that idea of like not weaponizing data. It makes me think about, I don't know what it was called. Was it Black Mirror or something where they like had a social media score right above them all the
Yes.
time?
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the score went down and everybody ignored them, or I forget what the consequence was, but it's like, yeah, let's not just make it so, hey, my call quality went down, you're fired. It's
Right.
like, no, let's jump on those people. Let's give them more attention so that way we can get them to the green or get them to wherever they need to be. By
Well,
any
and
chance, no
and
pressure, but oh yeah, go ahead, Sean.
sorry, I just wanted to follow that too. For the longest time, all we saw was again call totals, and perhaps maybe we're tracking talk time, which I don't feel is a fair representative of quality of phone calls. Is talk time, and so we're left with, hey, John, make more phone calls, set more appointments, and that's sort of it, right? And so today we can look at BDC agents and salespeople and advisors and say, hey, I see we're not getting the outcomes we want. Here's how, what the data suggests is this is how we're missing calls, and here's how we can get better quickly, and then here's a tool to do that. And then if someone's still not improving and not engaging, then we have a different conversation, right? But I think we're filling a crucial middle step which is equipping people to have those conversations and giving opportunities to improve versus just seeing it, not seeing it in the numbers, action taken, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I love the thought that like talk time isn't a good measurement of quality. Coming from a digital marketing background, I've had so many customers or clients look into their Google Analytics and say, my time on page is really low. It's only 2.5 minutes. You're like, how
Hmm.
long do you want them to be on your site? Yeah, they could browse for 20 minutes. Most of the time, if it's 20-minute session, they're lost. They're not finding
Right.
what they want. Like they don't spend 20 minutes on Car Gurus or Auto Trader or some of those highly optimized websites. They get in, get out. And
Hmm.
my goal is to get you a phone call or a form fill or a get e-price quote, like whatever that is. Um, Now, time on page doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. That could mean that they're ready to buy. But
Right.
time on call means that you're probably not setting the appointment. You're not redirecting the conversation and getting right back to just setting the appointment, getting them in front of you. And same with our voice AI. When I see a 6 minute phone call, I'm like, that's amazing that they didn't see that it was AI for 6 minutes and they're
Yeah.
having that great of a conversation. But the
Yeah.
AI is programmed to empathize and basically listen, empathize, and redirect back to their target of setting an appointment with a human feel without being like unnatural. And same situation sales reps should be doing. But question is no pressure, but do you have any like reports or a dashboard or anything that you can show that would help visualize something? Yeah, I know
Yeah, absolutely.
didn't ask of you coming into it, so I don't know if you have anything pulled up or not.
Yeah, let me get into my demo just so I'm not showing any active data or
Okay.
revealing names.
Yeah, would love to
Is
see
that
it. That
okay?
way
Is
they
the demo okay?
can see and feel the tangible nature of what you guys are doing.
Okay, I'll share my screen here. Can you see that all right?
Yes, I can see it. Any chance you can
Okay.
zoom in on your browser just a tad? Or would that kind of remove some data if it was
Yeah, I don't have a zoom in ability, or at least
okay.
maybe the technical ability might be the problem.
Uh-huh.
Um,
No problem.
I'll do my best. I'll give you just a high level here. So, first of all, we give sort of a director dashboard and at a glance of you can go custom, right? I can go, select teams. I can go select departments. I can go custom date ranges, or some of our recommended are just today, 7 days, or 30 days. But we can go custom of total departments, how many calls have come in and gone out from the store, how many voicemail, or I'm sorry, what was your voicemail grade? So we grade voicemails that are left with customers that are designed to increase engagement and callbacks. And then we have other stages of our call, which we call connection and confirmation. Connection being the actual core of the call, building up value, working towards an appointment. And then confirmation is how likely is your appointment to show up? How strong did we set that appointment, right? With total meetings set and an average call score. And then you'll see that broken out in sales, service, and service to sales. We do believe that competitiveness within dealerships is never going to go away. We think healthy competition drives success, and some of the best sales and service drives I've been on, there's been a healthy competition amongst staff, right? So you'll always see a leaderboard. Leaderboard again is based on date range. You can go within a month or just today is who's leading the board. These are all just based on average scores in each of our categories, and we use that to just drive a little bit of excitement for the agents, right? If you want to dig into it, and let's see if it gets me there. Cool. So this is our agents page, John. I want to show you what an actual representative would see, and then I can show you a little bit of what a manager might see data wise if they're looking for more data. But if
Okay.
I'm an agent, I can go in here and I can see, and I'll just go to the full profile. This is what I would see if I'm an agent. If I'm a BDC rep or a service agent or a salesperson, I'm going to see how many calls I've taken. I'm going to see how many connections I had, how many customers actually picked up the phone. That's another really common metric that dealers will look at is they'll look at total calls, they'll look at how many connections they got, and they'll look appointment set and then talk time. And I think connections is actually a valuable metric because it means, am I working the right leads? Am I calling the right people, right? And am I calling at the right time? We'll see how many meetings were set, how many appointments were set, and an overall average call score. And then we'll break that out into the three categories. How is our voicemail percentage, our connection, and our set score? We'll give you three things that people are doing well right now. For example, this is Jasmine. Jasmine's doing really good with tone and delivery. She's really doing really well with a warm intro and a hook and discovery. And we'll give three things quickly for Jasmine to improve. So right now, we're struggling with a solid appointment. So even if you set them, we're not too sure if they're going to show up. We're struggling with the appointment ask, and we're struggling with the bridge to an appointment, which is building value with what we learned to the appointment. Going down, you'll see every call that was made, which you can segment into voicemails, customers who picked up the phone, that were set, and then inbound versus outbound. So a really easy place for a leader or a salesperson to see, okay, how are my calls going, and how do I quickly find what I'm looking for. Clicking in, just to give you an idea of what it looks like when we actually score a call. We're going to break it down by an overall scorecard that's going to go through stages of the call and how we performed. If they left a voicemail, we're going to grade the voicemail, or if there's no voicemail, we'll go NA, so it doesn't affect the rest of the call score. And then we'll get into, all of our subcategories for a connection, right? Good energy and tone. Did the customer engage with the pitch? Did we overcome objections? Were we listening to respond, or were we listening just to talk, right? So the AI is listening to the call and grading against all of these things, and it'll give some notes at the bottom as well. And one of my favorite things that we can do is we can actually go in and make a role play off of any call that comes into the store that is made, right? And the AI can generate this very quickly. We can change the difficulty to beginner, immediate, or advanced. So if I'm an agent, I did not like the way a call just went, and a customer really gave me a hard time, and I feel like every time I get a phone call like this, I struggle. I can quickly go make a training and practice in an isolated, controlled environment, right?
That's really interesting. Yeah. So then that makes an
Yeah.
outbound phone call to the agent, and then they just take that phone call, and then that agent hypothetically would perform the same way the customer did.
Yeah, so I'll actually show you. So we have it'll create that, but we have a training hub. And what the training hub looks like is you can actually get in here and get into a role play with an AI, right? And so what all that creative training would do would be to create one of these for that and assign to that representative.
Wow.
So they won't
Crazy.
get a
So
phone call.
hypothetically, if somebody said, you know, hey, you're offering me $20,000 for my vehicle, but I owe $23,000, and then the sales
Right.
rep freezes, and they're like, "You're right, you're fucked." Instead, you could be like, "I get stuck there all the time. How do I
Yep.
deal with a negative equity position? The idea of rolling in that negative equity into an incredible loan, pitch them on the APR, pitch them on the monthly price. Like, I guess the AI would kind of give them that critique every time."
Yes, yes, and the really cool thing is we can start at beginner and go all the way to advanced, and the advanced is very difficult. I wrote the training, and I have struggled against the advanced AI, which I think is good. I think we should have a challenge in there, right? But what it'll do is it gives you a little bit of it'll give you insight into what to expect in the call, right? So it'll tell you, and it'll even tell you how to get a yes, right? It doesn't mean it's going to walk you to it. The agent's not going to say exactly what you might write down for it, but we're also not equipping salespeople or BDC agents or anybody for failure by giving them just sort of a blank intro to a role play with no idea how to get to an outcome. So we're kind of balancing giving them a fair shake or some insight into what's going to happen in this call, but you'll still be very surprised by the difficulty, particularly if you scale it up to advanced. So we can start at beginner and just, hey, I can never get past this out the door price request from customers. I can never overcome it, right? And so I can get just to the beginner and I can get sort of just through the ropes. I can just say it. I can get comfortable with how I'm going to overcome it, and the AI will be pretty nice to me. And then I can move to intermediate. Okay, the AI is giving me a little bit of a challenge now, right? And I've got to be sharp. And then I can move to advanced. And if I can beat the advanced, if I can handle the advanced, I feel very confident I'm gonna be in a good position with my customers to have the best answers and the best chance at setting an appointment for that client, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. So just to clarify, it is giving you the answers to the test and letting you practice, or it is not giving you the answers to the test, or maybe a hybrid.
So it's like a hybrid. Yeah. It'll say, hey, customer will say yes if you focus on, bridging value and if you do good discovery, right? or customer, if you say, if you push too early without discovery, customer will say no and hang up the phone. So it'll tell you things like that. It won't tell you how to ask the questions. It won't tell you how to bridge the value to the appointment, things like that. So it just gives as a salesperson or an agent, I know at least what I have to do to succeed. But I'm not giving you the answers. I'm just telling you where the answers will be, or where you'll lose. Does that make sense?
Incredible. Yeah. And then you just do this right in your browser. So you could be doing hours of training, or a dealership hypothetically could. That would be a really interesting thing if you don't have it, is an executive roll up report that shows how many hours of agent training somebody's done in a day.
We do. Yep. So that's one of the reports that we'll provide is John took 45 calls yesterday. John took and made 45 phone calls yesterday. John set 8 appointments with customers, and John completed 3 role plays. Here's the role plays, and here's his average score on those role plays. Right. So what we're doing is we want to keep managers informed of. We want to empower salespeople and phone agents to practice and get better on their own. There's a lot of people who don't want to role play with a trainer like me, right? And I'm also not. It's not possible for me to be all over. That's where AI has became a massive help. But we also want to create a layer of accountability in terms of, as a manager, if I want to see Sean, who took 60 calls yesterday and set no appointments. Sean, I'm going to need you to do some role plays today, right? I'm going to need you. I want to see you dedicate an hour of your day to practicing. It says here that you're really not handling objections well. Let's go to the objections role plays and let's get better, right? And so then I can come back in the evening and share with the manager in a report that, hey, Sean did complete 12 role plays. His average score was an 81%, and as a result today, he set 7 appointments on 62 phone calls, right? So we saw a drastic improvement in overcoming objections. So what we want to do is empower salespeople to get better, phone agents to get better, and equip managers to stay informed and stay up to date so they know what their people are doing. So the two are working together.
Yeah, I love this. I love to kind of just give everybody a big tip of what just happened here is your knowledge and expertise has always been your asset, but it's never been a tangible asset. You've always had to exchange your time in order for money to sell that asset. But now somebody like Sean has said, no, I'm going to take my knowledge. Now I'm going to put it into this system, which, not to discount the system, and there's a lot of thought that goes into the system, but a lot of people can build AI software now. A lot more people than before, at least, is the best way to
Right.
put that. And doesn't sound like Sean is an engineer. I don't know if you guys have engineers on staff, but I know there's a lot of startups that are doing this without engineers even, and it's incredible. And it's all about just putting your knowledge and what you're really, really, really good at, document that, and then if you don't know what to build, ask AI what you can build with this, and give them
Yep.
your ICP, or your target market, target customer, and get them to build a tool that would be useful, and that customer. So I just want to empower everybody to really figure out, what are you good at? What is your knowledge base? How do you put that down on paper? Because before, we used to put that down on paper, and I've done it as a business owner, I've put all the company's processes on paper. That is just probably covered in spider webs, because no employee is actually going to open this. None of the training that Sean is showing you right now was ever really open before, if it was just in a textbook. And like we mentioned about the old Joe Verde sales training videos, I imagine stuff like that, if not the same ones, are still floating around. Nobody really likes watching them, but this is engaging. This is gamifying, like training. This is really exciting, and it's everything that, it's decades of experience turned into something that's useful and actionable.
Right.
Incredible job, Sean. Building this out, and I definitely think that it's going to help a lot. What do you see as the future? Like, do you guys have a roadmap beyond this? What is your kind of big phase 2, phase 3 vision?
So today we're bringing it to dealers right now in terms of helping people get plugged in. I think the biggest step right now, and you'll hear this if you get with, for example, I was talking to a corporate trainer of a dealer group the other week where he had identified recently that phone calls were a big problem and their training was lacking in it, right? But that was as far as he had gotten, and he really didn't even know where to begin to understand where are we lacking, and what do I do next? What do I do with that? How do I get that information? And what action do I take? So for me, the first thing is we have to admit, or we have to bring it to dealers and say, hey, first of all, we have a hole in our game, right? We don't have anybody listening to these calls. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what our customers are saying. We don't know what our agents are saying, right? And then next step is we start improving that. So for what I see for this is I see a world where car dealers finally understand what their salespeople, what their phone agents, what their service drives are saying, right? And that may sound like a small thing, but I recently talked to a store as of a year ago who only just started recording their calls, less than 2 years ago, right? So as much as we might take it for granted, this world that you and I kind of live in as vendors, where there's all this technology and all this information going out, there's still a lot of dealers out there who aren't aware or even really heavily involved in what's happening with their customers. What are we saying, right? Past what some numbers might tell us. So I see this as a massive gap filler, and whether it's me or it's someone else, right? There is going to be a point where AI is informing every dealer in America, in my opinion, of what's happening on their phone calls. What are people saying? We have to get into tone. We have to get into customer sentiment. We have to look at alerts. We have to look at opportunities to save deals, and save customers and save relationships. And I think that'll be a natural part of sort of the future for car dealers as they kind of improve not only on the technology side, but being more transparent and building better relationships with their client base. Is we're gonna be accountable for what we say, right? And we're gonna give salespeople more tools to improve and succeed at their job, right? So that's from my opinion. I think that what we'll see as an extension of that is we'll see better and less turnover in stores as you equip salespeople and service advisors and BDC agents to have these conversations, and you give them roadmaps to improvement. My first day, I was 22. My first day in a dealership, I was 22 years old, and within 15 minutes, I was on an inbound phone call, and I fell apart. I mean, I did a terrible job because I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what was happening. And so if we can give, all of those people who are coming in and selling cars for their first time and working on the service drive for the first time, or working in a BDC for the first time, we can give them a really good plan and then a tool to get better. I think we're going to see people stick around and stay and grow in their jobs more.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of the people watching this show are either already advanced and already creating systems like this themselves, but I'd say the majority of them are just having the fear of not wanting to be left behind, trying to stay up to date on
Right.
what's new in AI and automotive. And I think these are the types of things that you guys have to jump on before your competitors do. If your competitors already aren't on that, and just to like keep the playing field even, and making sure that you still have the most talented team, because these humans are going to become superhumans as they're getting this level of accelerated training. Amazing conversation, Sean. Thank you so much. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you, whether it's directly on the website, email, social media?
Yeah, so you can reach. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm under Sean Patrick O'Brien. I threw my middle name in there. I can always be reached at Sean at callgradeiq.com. And then we're working on and since we're so new and kind of getting this rolling, we're working on a website presence. But you can reach out at call if you go to callgradeiq.com. Number one, you can get a free demo, so you can do. We'll take and give you a look at your data on 25 phone calls for free, and we'll give you insight into what's happening already. But you can reach out and we'll have a conversation anytime to show you, how we can make a huge impact on your store. And just for a little bit of insight, right? We're looking at about on just the inbound phone call side, we're looking about nationwide average is about 20% of our customers who call in, we capture, and they purchase a vehicle from us. And just think about that is 80% of our clients are missing on that side. And that's our farthest along lead in the funnel in terms of ready to buy, right? So this is the kind of stuff where we can't afford to ignore it. And if we get really good at this and we get really good at understanding what's happening on the phones, it's going to make a massive boost to our business.
That's incredible. I love that. Well, if you love conversations like this and you're craving more AI in automotive, please like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon to get notified when episodes like these get released. Thank you so much, Sean. I'm excited to see your journey and how far technology like this comes along for dealerships. Talk to y'all later.